Well, here we are. If someone wants to make questions, I can open the microphone and ask. And how is your experience teaching this to students?
Well, it's so wonderful to teach this because there's the practical side of it. There's the learning a sustainable design methodology. But Adriana, it's just like you were talking about. Once you start to immerse yourself in nature and see it in a new way, you have this different sense of your and connection to nature. And sometimes I think that's as powerful as anything, is that you learn, oh my gosh, it's humbling, and the beauty, and that the excesses that we have compared to there's abundance in nature, but it's all shared abundance, which is just amazing.
That's why I think it's so important to help and collaborate in sustaining local communities, their wisdom, because of course they know the earth and all the environment are their fabrics and their opportunities, and they had a long story relating with the resources, with other people in a sustainable way, of course. And so from their wisdom, we have so much to learn, and together co-create and interchange these tools that we have created in the other part of the world in order to maintain this culture alive, growing, local people can live. And also you were mentioned some brands, as it is Animana, a brand that works locally. And I can say personally how difficult it is to do all this work on the base of the platform, organizing communities, giving all this capacity building and learning and co-creating with them, and also introducing this information from the other part of the world, of the market, and going ahead with a brand, with a communication, and having a space at the market. And I think in this sense is so important that we began to think, to rethink entrepreneurs, firms, and profit, and not just to be like enlightened by big companies that earn a lot of money, and at the same time they are destroying our world and are not respecting people. So important, a new concept of firms, of entrepreneurs, of big actors of our world come ahead, yes, and we give this opportunity. We give us this opportunity. Also to look locally how we can potentiate the resources we have near us in order to create goods, services, and to live in these processes. I think we have
got some questions. Yeah, one was how can we use these tools in strategic communications? So one of the core ideas of biomimicry, one of the things I love about it is it makes you a better designer. So the first thing you have to do is say, okay, I want to have strategic communication. That is like what you want to do, so what you want to design. And in biomimicry, the first step is to identify functions. So you have to ask, what do I want my design to do? And forget that what you think you already know. So if I said, I want to design a chair, well, we already have chair in our head, like what a chair looks like. Instead, you go, don't think about what you want to design, what you want your design to do. Is it supposed to be comfortable? Is it temporary? Is it permanent? Is it supposed to be movable? It needs to I need to position a person in a certain way, like in a movie theater or a dentist chair. So you start to ask, what is it you're really trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
You get down to those real basics, and then you say, well, how does nature do that? And nature may do that in many different ways, and you keep exploring many different ideas, like how does nature communicate? Why does it communicate? So you'd have to ask yourself, well, why do you want a strategic communication? What are you trying to communicate? Why does it need to be strategic? So you keep asking why, and it can be really irritating, but that's where you get the gem of good design. And then you take those into nature. And sometimes you find, oh, I actually don't need that. I need something else altogether, which is why it's so radical. So for example, when we design something, we expect that thing to perform all the functions. But often in nature, the thing doesn't perform the function. As I said, nature performs it for you. But that's why we love this interconnected, interdependent, because you're always giving to the system whether you want to or not. You know, I'm breathing out, you're all breathing out, but that's our waste. But then the leaves out there going, thank you, and taking that in, the CO2 in, and kicking out oxygen. So we only perform half of that crucial function of breathing, for example. So nature is full of communications in all kinds of different ways. And so that would be a really wonderful thing to start to explore. And then someone asked about policy making, and absolutely you can do that. In fact, I've got this class on the side. It's called, it's not part of our program, but it's called Biomimicry Basics. Anyhow, one of the examples I show in there is how you can design a vacation policy. And so, like I said before, the first question is, well, why do you need a vacation policy? And you might ask, and we use like Socratic inquiry methods to do this. Well, why do we need vacation? And why do we need a policy? And you're like, well, and then you start to get at the why. And then through that, you say, well, how does nature deal with that? And suddenly this whole thing emerges. And in the case of the vacation policy, nature doesn't need vacation policies because their lives are designed to get rest when they need it. They do whatever it is. Like some animals need to sleep most of the day. Some hardly sleep at all. Some like take the winter off. They hibernate. And so it's really different depending on what the needs are. So people have done that in this specific case of vacation policies and come up with basically no vacation policy. So they eliminate the need for a policy, which also eliminates the need for administration, and you optimize the person and you optimize the work so that it's, you eliminate the need for vacation as we think of it. So you can definitely use it for policies. And again, it gets at what is that policy for? So there's, nature's full of organizations, whether it's, family groups or bigger groups or whole ecosystems. And so there have to be policies for everything to get along. And that gets back to those, life's principles. I hope that answered that question.
Yes, perfectly. I think we need to take conscious about these principles and nature in order that this could be included in our general lives, of course, and policy making will take in account this if for all of us these themes are important, no? I would like to ask you, how do we not see biomimicry on more sustainable curriculums? Yes, especially in sustainability, in fashion and textile programs.
Yes, that's a great question. Yeah. So we, in our program, our Master of Art in Sustainable Design program, we weave biomimicry throughout many of our courses. So for example, we teach systems thinking, which is needed for sustainability and including fashion. You have to see the whole system to see how to make it sustainable. And of course, nature is full of systems. So, and we weave it into different classes, and we have a whole course just on that. The reason why it's not more out there is it's different, you know, and things that are a really different approach are hard for people to adopt. And so that is the goal, is to figure out how to have more people see this and see the results of it. And then, you know, it'll be more integrated. And part of it too has to do with biology has been developed in a way that doesn't answer these questions. So if an engineer or a designer asks a biologist a question about something they're seeing, the biologist may not be able to answer it because biology hasn't evolved that way. So groups like the Biomimicry Institute, so I put in the link in there, well, it's not a link, but the biomimicry.org, they've been putting scientists and engineers and architects and biologists together to figure these things out. I used to work for the Institute a while ago, and they have this wonderful site called asknature.org. You can literally go there and type in, how does nature waterproof? How does nature create color? And you could see all these examples of organisms that do it. And then if there are inventions based on that, they'll show those too, and you can connect up with people like that. But it is becoming more and more pervasive. So if you type in biomimicry, there's a ton of stuff out there. And the other thing is getting at, we were talking about, Adriana, is our capitalist system. Some of you in fashion may know the history of, like, I just read a book called, I think it's called The Perfect Red, the history of the red dye. Oh my gosh, you know, it dominated world capitalism, and people and empires were made and lost over the color red, you know, and the same is true with trees and wood. And so the history of exploitation and that integration of exploitation and capitalism, and unfortunately science has kind of supported that, not because scientists support it, but because it has been leveraged for that purpose, makes it hard. And this is where art and design are so important. I mean, my background is engineering, but I'm in an art and design school now because we need people like you who can imagine a different way. Like, for example, how can we create things that fit perfectly in with nature by learning from nature? And imagine that and then do it. So then develop enough skills so you can do it. And that's what we need, is people with imagination and capacity to do, not people who just, like myself, being a problem solver, you stay in the problem space. All you do is shift around the problem. You know, you need that imagination. So those of you who are creatives, we need your skills.
I think the big problem of our society nowadays is the fragmentation, no? And this fragmented process is inside of us, and of course is the world we have created. So I think how we can make these bridges between local problems, between the small, medium firms that work around and with nature and with resources and humans. And if we think small, medium firms are more than 90% of the firms around the world, but they are very, there is a broken link between them and the big companies that work with them and the consumers. So if we begin creating with professionals, with designers, with marketing, with economists, with sociologists, this bridge in order to understand local problems, to forget our professions, and just to go into an experience of tackling a theme and co-learning together, yes, the solution. And I think this experience can open a road for another society. And in this sense, we are doing a great effort in Hechos por Nosotros of creating these spaces and these bridges in an ecosystem that could be easily accessed for many, and that could join so many knowledge and efforts and research and time invested in solutions with local people, with local problems. And in this way, we all being together will experience better solutions and not just imagine solutions, but go into the ground, no? And so I think we are all important. We are all very, very important in this game. We have to understand that each of us, we are so creative, so where we are and all the potentiality we have, but we have to connect more with our values, and from there other things will be born. And well, all your presentation, your knowledge and experience has been so interesting and inspiring. And I am very thank you, Denise, and you are very welcome to be an ambassador and an actor at Hechos for Nosotros, of course. You already are.
Thank you so much. I put my email address in there if I'm sure you've got more questions. There's just a taste of what biomimicry is about. So you're welcome to email me if you've got questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Denise. Thank you to all. Good afternoon.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Bye, bye.
Bye.